Okay, so while I'm waiting for my tube and battery stuff to get here, I decided to take a look at why this radio doesn't really attach to his cabinet anymore, aside from the fact that there's only one bolt in the top. So I looked online, and this is one that's in much better shape, but you can see this one has a piano hinge across the bottom here, which mine does not have. There's no hinge bottom or hinge top, nothing at all is attached where this hinge should be on mine. You see on the back of the front board there's this bar where the hinge would screw in and there's screw holes in it, but there's nothing on the front, just the holes, and same thing with the box, there's just holes for screws but nothing actually attached there. So I went to Home Depot and I bought some stuff. I did look for something I could use to replace the brass knob. So the way it's supposed to work is the hinge holds the bottom in, and then there's two brass knobs on the top that's going to hold the top in, and then it looks like the two brass knobs on the bottom are just dummies, just for decoration. I don't think they actually attach to anything. You can see, I'm not sure if you can see the holes here, but it doesn't look like there was anything actually attached there support-wise. So I went to Home Depot, and of course they didn't have anything similar to the brass knobs. So I picked up something that can work. I'm just not going to look as pretty. So I picked up screws, but they're the right length and the right thread and everything. Of course, this is going to look really ugly on there. And I also picked up bolts, so I might paint the head of these bolts and put 4 bolts in. Might look a little bit better than these screws. But at least now I know what the thread is, so if I do decide to special order something, I can specify the thread that is needed. But for now I'll probably just go with one of these. I'm thinking I'm going to go with the bolts and just paint the heads black or something. It won't look great, but it'll at least be functional for now. As far as the hinge, I also picked up some small hinges here. The problem with them is, so if you put them on this way, where like this would be on the bottom and this would be on the front, you can see that the hinge is on the inside, so it would hit against the bottom corner of this, so that's not going to work. If you put them the other way, so that this is on the bottom, like this on the bottom, this is on the front, now this bottom part sticks out, and it's going to hit the bottom of the cabinet because the hinges are inset somewhat, so this can't hang over the edge of the cabinet. This is going to make the hinge go sideways like this, which is not what we want. So what I found you can do, so what I'm going to do is you find the big end of the pin, so that's the small end there, you can see that one's all the way, and this is the big fat end, and then on that part of the hinge just pry up a little bit, and then you should be able to take some pliers and pull the pin out like that. Then you just take this and flip it around, put the pin back in, and now I can put this on the bottom, this on the front, and you can see that this piece now sticks out the front and up and is not going to hit against anything. There certainly should be enough room in the front of the cabinet for that to be there, so I'm not worried about that. This is how I'm going to do all my hinges. And then you just squash down that area that was bent up, and it should make for a permanent hinge that way. So we can have it like this and it'll swing out, and I think that will work. So I'm going to make that modification on a couple of hinges here, and I'm going to look at how exactly I can mount them. I might have to drill some new holes in here because I'm not sure if you can see the holes or not, but they're spaced out pretty far out. So there's none spaced close enough together like this. So might have to drill a couple of holes in here for some new screws, but I think that this will work. I'll have to drill some holes in the bottom as well. But I think that's going to work for our hinges. Obviously I'll have to try it out and make sure that it will. And these will work for now for our top pieces. So at least that will allow this piece to be firmly attached to the cabinet. Again, instead of just being held in by one single bolt in the top corner. Other than that, I've checked all of the tube filaments on the remaining tubes, and they all have continuity. And one of them was marked with a label that said weak, so I might buy a replacement for that as well, since I'm already waiting on some other parts. So I'm going to see what I can come up with for mounting these hinges, and hopefully that'll be pretty simple to get this reattached to its box again. Now here's a very basic, very flimsy proof of a concept. I might have to make these holes a little bit bigger on the top. I think these hinges might be a little bit shorter than the original hinges, so these screws here are pretty tight now. I can get that one out. So I might have to try and move these holes up just a little bit. These are the only hinges they had, so that's what we have to go with. Anyway, see, now it will hinge out. Back up in. So we've got to get the rest of these mounted. You can see this end is kind of not in alignment because I only have one screw in here, but I will have to drill and tap some more holes in that middle bar that runs across the back, because you know, there's only holes where these holes are, so I have to drill and tap some holes in that middle bar for the other hinges. But I think this will work. It's going to require a bit of modification. I might have to, like I said, I might have to move these holes up a little bit. And I also had to cut out some of the wood from under here to make room for the bolts that I have on top of the hinge, but it should work. Just might not be the prettiest or the best, but I think it should work. Okay, so I've got 4 hinges partially in now, and I got these bolts to fit in, so should be able to just unscrew these. Hinges right out. It's exactly what I want. And glue it back in again. So I think this will definitely be satisfactory here. Put these bolts back in. There we go. Yeah, so I definitely think that's going to work. I'll get some washers to put behind these bolts just to cover up any, you still see some of the hole visible there, so I'll get some washers to put behind there so you don't see that. Then with the other 2 bolts down here, I'll get the same washer to put down them, and then I'll probably just paint the bolts and the washers black. I don't think it'll look too bad. Not original, but I don't think it'll be too terrible. Same thing, I'll probably get some different screws in here that'll sit flat on top of the hinges, and probably paint the hinges and the screws black. Still got to drill and tap the other holes for the other screws there yet, but I don't really think this will be satisfactory, because the only time you would ever have to open this up is to change the battery anyway, so it's not going to be like, you know, a common occurrence opening and closing this thing all the time. So I definitely think that this setup here with these bolts and washers and these smaller hinges, I think that's going to work out just fine for this radio. You know, it's not original, but the likelihood of finding parts, these missing knobs and the missing hinge, likelihood of finding that is not too good. These are pretty rare radios as it is, so I'm definitely going to be satisfied with how this is going so far, and I think that's going to be fine. So, in the meantime, my batteries and the tube I ordered have come in. So I think I'm going to take a break from installing these hinges and go back to the electronic side, see if we can get this working and get some sound out of it. Okay, I think we're just about ready for an electrical test here. I've got this just resting on the back of the chassis for now. Should be fine that way. So we can get the controls on the front here. So for batteries, I've made up 3 packs like this, which are 45, so it's 45 volts from here to here, just wires from 9 volts together. And then one special pack like this, which has the 45 volts across here, and then a 22.5 volt tap in the middle. Uses that for the grid biases, I believe. There's one wire that the tube filaments, the 6 volts for that is actually connected at the 22.5 volt tap here. So technically all the tube filaments are sitting at 22.5 volts with respect to ground. And then for the A battery, I just wired up some 9 volts here. So, or not some 9 volts, some D cell batteries here for 3 volts for the filaments. So, got the rest of these hooked up. Actually, what I could do is with these wired up that way, we should be able to turn it on and get some filament glow. Let me see. That's not the right knob. This is the right knob. So if you'll be able to see or not, it's probably pretty bright. Let me see if I can turn some lights off. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. The very faint glow down in there. Yeah, I don't think it's going to pick it up, but the 2 filaments are glowing. Okay, so the batteries are hooked up here. This is 180 volts total, so if I go from end to end, it's 188. That might drop down and load, or just the batteries are, a little bit out of tolerance, but that's fine. 180 volts for the B battery. When you're working with these, you do have to be careful. Normally it's okay, you can do whatever you want with batteries, you don't have to be careful handling them, but each of these individual cells are 45 volts, and you will feel that if you bridge end to end. So, and you will definitely feel it if you bridge all the way across 180 volts. You'll definitely feel that. So, just take some extra precautions here when working with these high voltage batteries, because you will get a shock if you bridge across them, which is kind of hard to get used to, because normally when you're handling batteries like a 9 volt or a D cell, you don't have to worry about touching both ends at the same time, because it's not enough to give you a shock. But in these it is, so you definitely have to be careful with these ones. So anyway, the reason why this one's so ugly is because I use a 22.5 volt tap in the middle, which is halfway through a 9 volt. So a 9 volt is made up of 6 1.5 volt cells, and you need 3 1.5 volt cells to get your 22.5, to get your 4.5 volts, which would be an additional 4.5 volts plus 18, so you'd have 2 9 cells plus half a 9 cell to get your 22.5 volts. Now I thought what I could do is just, normally these 9 volt batteries are 6 quadruple A cells spot welded together with tabs. So I thought I could just open one up and just pick off halfway through, just attached to the tab that is the 4.5 volt one. But when I opened up the 9 volt cell, I found this. So these ones apparently are not made out of the normal quadruple A cells that they used to be. I know that they're quadruple A because I use them to power my Surface Pen, which is quadruple A, and those batteries are the same size. And I opened a Duracell too, just to check that one, and that's the same kind of deal. So, not sure if they recently changed to this, or if only some manufacturers use the quadruple A. So, I just had to wire up 6 AA batteries in the bottom of this one, and then pick halfway off to get the 22.5 volts. But anyway, this is all hooked up. I'm going to put my new tube in, which I ordered. So I can open this real quick. So it's a new box, not new box, but in the original box. See the original box there, RCA radio tube. This is a little bit later one because the original ones are said Radiotron. Oh, it does say Radiotron up here at the top. But there you go, RCA 32. It's out in a nice little carton here. Patents, license notice, fuel protection, and the tube itself, of course, is not the globe kind. This is the only 32 tube I could find on eBay, so we'll just pop this in here. Put the grid cap on, and I think we are ready to go. I've double checked all the connections. You have to be really careful hooking these up. Make sure that the connections are correct. I've checked with the piece of paper in the box, and I've checked in the schematic, and they should be correct. If these are wrong, basically as soon as you turn it on, it'll instantly blow all of the tube filaments, because these tube filaments are rated for I think 2 volts, so they must have some dropping to drop the sleeve battery down to the 2 volts required for the tubes, because with this tube out I did measure the filaments and it was like 2.2 volts, so they must have a resistor or something to drop that down. Anyway, if you have these hooked up wrong and you give the filaments 180 volts instead of 3 volts, you'll instantly blow all of them. So just double check that. So we should be good here. We'll go back to the front and see if something blows up. Okay, so here we go. Oh, we got some noise. Not much else though. Oh. Something there. Seems a bit distorted, but there is something there. Volume doesn't seem to be doing anything, so maybe the volume control is not exactly functional. There is some sound, I'm not sure if you can hear it. This volume knob is pretty messed up too, it's very hard to tune. And it doesn't seem to make any difference. It went down a little bit. So it does seem to be, picking up stations, it's just the audio is very distorted. I'm definitely going to take a look at that volume control. Something definitely seems wrong there. So we picked up 2 stations, distortedly. Now of course, this video does not have a built-in antenna, it just has the little antenna coil, that real small coil right there. That's the only thing picking up anything right now, so this will probably work better if I hook an antenna up here, but before we do that, we definitely have to take a look and see why this is so distorted. But for a first power up, definitely not too bad. We didn't blow anything up. And of course I still have those out of value resistors in there too, so I'm not sure if those would be causing this particular problem, but it does seem to be tuning. Doesn't pick up many stations, but again, that could be because of the antenna not being present. and got to take a look at the audio circuit. So we're getting there. Definitely could have been worse, but I'm pretty sure this will be fixable. So we'll take a look at the audio circuit first and see where we are after that. So I changed one of the tubes. I just went through and removed all of them. It didn't make any difference. So since I had some spare 34s, I went in and tried the new in-box 34s in place of the ones that were in there. I did check out the volume control too. That it's a little bit high, like shifted high in resistance, but it does seem to make continuity throughout this entire swing. There are no breaks, so I'm not going to be too worried about that. Yes, the higher resistance could have shifted the bias voltage, but before I went into that, I decided to try swapping a couple tubes since I just have some new in-box tubes. And you can see it's made some difference. I definitely have more volume now, but it's still pretty distorted. So this 34, which I think is the detector tube actually, I'm going to double check on that. That one, I swapped it out and got more volume, but it's still distorted. I did try swapping out the other two. I tried the other two first, and that didn't seem to make any difference. So I do have one more new 34. I might try swapping out the other two now that I've got more volume and see if that distortion goes away. And I might try swapping out some of the 230s as well, type 30 tubes. So we're getting a little bit better. Of course, all the original capacitors are still in here yet, but usually the ones that are sealed in the wax block don't always go bad. I have a Radiola 17 that still has all the original capacitors in it, and that works fine. So I'm not too suspicious of the capacitors yet. We're going to try changing a couple more tubes first and see what that does for us. So I also hooked up this little baby antenna, just goes, 3 feet that way. So getting better. I think the antenna helped a little bit, and that tube, changing that tube definitely helped a lot. So I'll play around with some other tubes a little bit and see if we can get any more results. And if not, then I'll look into something else in the circuit. It's kind of ironic that the other two 34s were labeled as weak, and when I changed those I didn't notice any difference. And this one that isn't labeled weak is the one that seemed to make the most difference. But I'll try swapping those out too while this new one's in the circuit and see if that does anything. And I also noticed that these battery-powered radios, the tubes warm up instantly. They draw so little current, the filaments are so thin that they warm up instantly. And the reason for that is on a lot of the AC tubes, especially from this era, they made the filaments extra thick so that they would maintain their heat better. So that during the peaks and troughs of the AC sine wave, it would smooth the heat out. So the filaments in here are much thinner than the filaments in AC tubes because these are fed a constant current, so the temperature is always the same. With the AC tubes, with the current always fluctuating, they didn't want the tubes to cool down during a crossover point in the sine wave of the AC, so they made the filaments thicker in those tubes so that they'd maintain the heat, constant heat throughout the entire sine wave cycle, just to reduce hum and stuff in the output. I'm not sure about whether they maintained that strategy up through like the 7-incher tubes, but definitely from this era, the type 26s and like 45s and those, you can tell that the filaments are much thicker in the AC tubes, like the 26s and the 45s and those, than these battery-powered 30 series tubes. So anyway, I'll try some more tubes and see what that does. Alright, so I just played around with the tubes a little bit and didn't seem to really get anywhere. So I think it's definitely either a tube or a resistor or capacitor, because usually when you turn it on, it'll come up real loud and then die down it'll die down pretty quick and then it dies down even more as it goes on. So I really think that either one of the tubes is, you know, shorting or not working properly as it gets warmer, or there's a resistor or capacitor or something that drifts as it gets a little bit warmer. So I'm going to go over the resistor board and replace the auto tolerance resistors. I'll probably replace the capacitors too. May as well just do that. I don't think there's that many of them in that capacitor block. And I'll order 102 type 230 tubes. See if I can play around with swapping in some new tubes and see if I get anything going there. So that's going to be about it for this video. We did get it playing. See if I turn it off. I'll leave it off for a minute or so and then turn it back on and see if it, you know, comes up loud and then slowly dies down. So yeah, I think that's going to be about it for this video. I'll have to order some tubes to play around with, and then in the meantime I'll work on replacing the auto tolerance resistors and rebuilding the capacitors, or replacing the capacitors. See what happens. See, it was louder than when I turned it off. And it seems like it's, you know, slowly dying off. So definitely seems like something's, you know, drifting as it's getting used. So there's only a couple options that could be: either resistors drifting, tubes warming up and drifting or shorting, or capacitors shorting as they get warmed up or something, or getting leaky. So work on that, and hopefully in the next video we'll be able to listen to this without distortion. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.